Good evening, and we are so glad to have you back with us. We have so much fun every month when we do this show. And tonight I have two fantastic guests, but we're going to start with one that I know you want to hear from. And this is Linda Fitzgibbon from Nye County School District. She's got a lot of information for us. But before we get into that information, I have something from a future guest that's something that's happening that I know you want to hear about. And Linda has some information she can also share with us. And this is on the, if you're interested in social work, learn more about Great Basin College and UNR. This is the Bachelor of Social Work 3+1 program. And it's on your screen right now. They're having some open hours. And it's going to be live broadcast that you might want to take and watch. It's on at 5:30 on Tuesday, April 16th, and again 5:30 on April 23rd. So you can watch either one of those and find out more about this program. Or you can call Laura Debenham at 775-753-2466. And we can put that up on the screen for you one more time so you can get all that information. But the phone number to call if you want more information on this is Bachelor of Social Work 3+1 program, and the phone number is 775-753-2466. Laura Debenham. And you had something else you wanted to say about that?
I'm just so happy to see this coming to Pahrump because actually my daughter, Anne, was a student at the 3-in-1 program at Great Basin College. She got her bachelor's degree and then went on to get her master's program at UNR. So not only her, but one of our other social workers at Nye County School District has gone through that particular program too. So we got two of them out of that program.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's a great program. I encourage anybody to do that. So.
Okay, now that you've heard about the social work program, we're going to talk to Linda Fitzgibbon. She, again, as I stated, she's from the Nye County School District. And Linda, I just want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. And Linda has some interesting titles, and I'm going to ask her about just to define exactly what she does, because, you know, people who know me say I wear a lot of hats. I don't wear hardly a number of hats that Linda wears. So in this case, she's the grant site representative. She's the district homeless liaison. She's the pre-K program manager and district fostering connections liaison. And she's also handles the students in transition. So Linda, tell us what some of those positions are and what do you do?
So I'll just start at the top. So kind of with the grant site representative, that's kind of a generic name that covers all of the programs that are kind of under the hat that or the umbrella, I should say, that I have with those separate little programs there. So the first one is the district homeless liaison, and what I do with that is there's a federal program called the McKinney-Vento Homeless Children's Act, and that program requires that all school districts assign a district homeless liaison.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I got the opportunity to have that position. I started 10 years ago with this position. I've been actually with the school district for 25 years now.
Wow, okay.
But with the district homeless liaison, and what we do with that is our job is to train our school district staff. Every single one of the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, they all have what we call a point of contact.
Okay.
So it kind of filters down. So every school has somebody in there on their site that is McKinney-Vento trained.
Okay.
And our job there is to identify those students and then help them with whatever needs that they have. We try to remove all the barriers so to prevent them from not going to school and making sure we keep them in school.
It's always best to keep students in school.
And no matter what, absolutely, we do our very best on that. And then as the pre-K program director or program manager, we had received a federal grant. Actually, we're ending our grant year, our 4-year grant cycle now. It was, I think, $3.1 million. It was a large sum of money. And we were able to put pre-K programs in every single one of our elementary schools here in the Pahrump Valley. Actually, 2 classrooms. At J.G. Johnson, we actually have 3 of those classrooms there.
Now, I have to ask the question. I know our audience is probably familiar with this, but why pre-K? And why is pre-K important?
Well, a lot of us, we remember kindergarten.
Yes.
Kindergarten is not what it used to be.
Oh, okay.
At all. Kindergarten now is more like the first grade that we have. The standards and expectations, the bar has been set very high for kindergarten. So now what we have to do, the pre-K is our new K, or is our new kindergarten now.
Now that explains it well then, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what's coming down the pike. More and more, I love going into a kindergarten class on the first day of school, because you can literally, and you can ask your teachers, you can literally pick out those children that have already been to pre-K.
Okay.
Not only socially, emotionally, but they know how to use a pencil, they know how to use scissors, they can already write their name. So believe me, the kindergarten teachers are very, very happy to have pre-K programs available to them. So.
Now, how many schools? I know we're going to talk about Nye County, and sometimes people in Clark County are going to see this show as well. So, but how do you start a pre-K program? How many students? What age? Things like that.
So our pre-K program, because it's grant funded, we have certain requirements. The federal guideline says that we can have only 20 students in a classroom.
Okay.
And in that classroom with 20 students, we have a teacher and we have a paraprofessional. Okay. Here in Pahrump, we've also been able to put in what we call is a taxi paraprofessional, which is a paraprofessional that's trained in social emotional training, so those behavior issues can be addressed. And that's a part-time person. And then we also have our AmeriCorps members that we brought in too. So we have 3 adults in a classroom at any one time. Okay. And when you think about that, I mean, if you've ever been, a lot of us, may have grandchildren, 4 years old, 5 years old. Imagine what it's like to have 20 of those kids in your household. And so 3 adults in that classroom is super important to have.
It's like herding cats.
Yeah. Kittens.
Kittens, okay. And puppies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then the other thing that we are required is, through the grant, is the families that we take are 200% of poverty. Okay. So those are the 2 requirements: 4 years old by September the 30th, and 200% of poverty is the requirement to be in that particular program.
And then they start kindergarten at 5?
5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. Ready to go.
How long have we had the pre-K program in Nye County?
So we've had our federal program that has been in all of our elementary schools for the past 4 years. Okay. We actually, prior to that, we had a state-funded program that had 2 classrooms half day. And so that was at one particular site. They still had the grant requirements for that too. But what's happening right now is that federal program money is going away as of June the 30th. And so currently at our state legislature there is a bill before our state legislature to take the current little pot of money that we had for our state and expand it. Okay. So that way, hopefully, we'll be right back where we were before.
Okay. Now, we've laid the groundwork for you. And so everything else, tell us more about all the things that you do, and we're going to use the rest of this session and next session to cover all the things.
Okay, great. Well, the other thing I wanted to mention to you too that just is new this past December actually is our foster care connections. So
what is that?
Well, so we have a lot of foster care children that are in our school district, and our Division of Child and Family Services is who manages all of our foster care children. And so what we've decided, what the state decided, was that the schools need to have a better connection to Division of Child and Family Services. We need to have better connections so we can share information about these children, where they're housed, what their grades are like, things like that, so we can better help our foster kids. So that's another component that's brand new. But a lot of our kids used to, when they were, and then the McKinney-Vento program, we actually put them under that umbrella, but now we have a separate program for them to allow them to do that.
Now, some of the charts that you have here, and I wasn't watching. Have we put any of your charts up that we can show?
Not yet, but if you want to, you can go ahead and put the chart up that talks about that ends on March 2019 and shows where our current student count is. There it is.
Okay.
So this is the most recent numbers. We're actually at 346 students. Now, one of the things that y'all need to know is that at the beginning of every school year, we wipe the slate clean.
Oh, and start over.
Start over, because
Okay.
just because you were in that situation last year does not necessarily mean you were in that situation this year.
Very good.
So every year we have the job of identifying students all over again. So as you can see on that chart, it shows that we started in October, even though school starts in August. It takes a while to get that information in. But it slowly but surely has climbed, and so you can see that we're at 346 students as of the end of March. And
And these are homeless students?
these are students that have been identified as homeless under the
Okay.
McKinney-Vento Act. The other chart that you see up there is where those students are at. So much of the time we think, you know, if you're in Beatty or in Amargosa that, oh, we don't have a homeless issue here. But as you can see by the chart, we've got our kids all over the place. There's that. There's no place that does not have an issue with homelessness.
My curiosity, and I'll do this in the next session, is
Sure.
why the numbers are going up.
Well, actually, we'll wait for the next session because they're actually not.
They're actually not going up, even though the chart shows that they are going up.
Well, we'll talk.
Okay. You know, because so many people I know they're concerned about the homeless students. And if we have a homeless student problem, what are we doing to solve it? How are we going to solve it? Will it ever go away, or is it just going to get worse and worse? We never know.
Well, like I said, the charts go up, but when we compare to last year, the actual numbers are down a little bit.
You know, that is outstanding. And yes, we're going to talk about more of this during our next session. And again, we have Linda Fitzgibbon with us. She's from the Clark County School District. Nye County School District. And she wears a lot of hats and does so much for our students, which is why I wanted her on the show. Come back and join us. Welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. I hope you have a pencil and paper and you're writing some of this information down so you can get in touch with Linda. And if you have any questions about anything that we discussed today, it is so important that you contact her. Linda, how can they get in touch with you if they wanted to call you?
So my number is 775-727-1875. We have a direct line to our program, the McKinney-Vento program, so they can just give us a call anytime.
Okay, give that number one more time.
Sure, 775-727-1875.
Okay. That's if you want to get in touch with Linda because you have questions about any of the things she's mentioning. Now, before we went to break, we talked about the homeless students and the numbers and how they're going up and down at the same time.
Right. So the chart that you saw before showed this year. So we start at 0 and we continue to go up as we identify over the year. We have another chart though, and that's the one that I wanted to show you, and this is the one I was excited about.
Okay.
And this is the trend and how it compares between last year's numbers and this year's numbers. So you can see they always are going up, but if you look there, our comparison between last year at this time was 377 kids, and we have 346 kids this year.
Okay.
So that is a big thing for us because I've been following these numbers for, like I said, the last 10 years, and usually, man, they just keep going up. This is the first time we've seen a really significant drop, and a lot of the times, there's two reasons I would say that that's happening. One is because we've removed our foster care children from those numbers there. So that would be one reason. And of course, the biggest reason is our economy is a lot better. People are getting jobs where they didn't have jobs before, so they're getting housing. The third thing is Section 8 housing opened up here in Nye County. And when I say opened, it's always been here, but they've never had the funding to be able to give out more. So more of our families that have been on our rolls for the last 2 or 3 years are now getting permanent housing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I'm contributing that lower number for that. So.
Okay, now I still have to ask the question because when I look at the numbers that start, say, in October and then through today, those numbers are increasing. Is that just because of identification?
It is 100% due
Okay.
to identification. So it takes us a little while to get everything into the system. More families move in. What these numbers don't reflect, and what I actually last year or not last year, but in 2016 and 2017, we actually ended up with just 501 students, which is a lot different than what the numbers are that I show here. These
Yes.
are today's students.
Gotcha.
This is a snapshot of today. But what I would like to point out is the fact that compare the 500 students to like the 380 students that we ended up with last year. We actually served 501 students.
Okay.
That shows you how transient that population is.
Absolutely.
Because if we actually ended our school year with about 380 and we actually served over 500, then that tells you how many left.
Yes.
They came in, we served them, and they left. So that's the number that you see is a snapshot of today, but the numbers that we serve are a lot higher.
Okay.
So,
Taking care of students, and that's what you do.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and that is, we have a great chart here about what we actually do as far as how we identify our students. It's the federal law, the federal McKinney-Vento law, and basically it says that McKinney-Vento Act defines children and youth who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence as homeless. So there's two federal laws out there. There's the HUD law, and then there's the McKinney-Vento law. The HUD law basically says you have to be living on the street, but the McKinney-Vento law just says that you are lacking a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence.
Okay.
What that means here in Nye County is because we have one homeless shelter, and actually it's not a homeless shelter, it's a domestic violence shelter out here. We have no homeless shelters here. So
Okay.
what that means is the majority of our families are in a double-up situation, or a triple-up situation,
Oh,
or
I see.
quadruple-up situation.
Okay.
So because they don't, like I said, fixed means, fixed to the ground. Is it a house? Even a travel trailer would be fine as long as you have, sewer and water
Okay.
and electricity. Is it regular? Is it someplace where you're going to have for a long period of time that you're going to go home to every night? Sometimes our kids don't know where they're going to go home. Right about 2 hours before school gets out, some of those kids start getting a little bit antsy, and we're like, this kid's been great all day, what's going on? Well, come to find out, now they're all of a sudden thinking about, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Am I going to go home to the same place?
Okay.
Things like that. And then is it an adequate? And that's where we come in. Does it have, refrigeration so they can keep food? Does it have heat? Does it have water? Does it have sewer? All the things that we take into consideration. So that's the actual federal law. And then here's our eligibility. And I love this chart because it actually shows who's covered. So those that are sharing houses of others are covered. That's that double up. Those living in hotels, motels, living in parks, abandoned buildings, living in a public or private place that's not designated, living in emergency or transitional shelters. And then we have our unaccompanied youth, which is a whole nother world.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, and those are all families, or not families, those are all students that for whatever reason are no longer with their family.
Oh.
Okay, it could be runaways, but most of the time it's just like you turned 18, goodbye, you're on your own. Well, they're still in school, and we still got to get them through school.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so those are the kids that are actually eligible for our particular program.
There's a lot that you've covered already, and the most important thing is taking care of children.
Right.
We take care of children, and one of the things that I saw as an educator is we have kids in school, and sometimes we don't know why they're doing what they're doing or not doing what they should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And sometimes it is because, like you said, they have no idea where they're going after school. They feel safe at school, and we do everything we can to make that environment safe for them. But we have no idea sometimes about what's happening later.
That's so true. We try to, one of my jobs is to actually train all of our staff to look for signs and symptoms.
Absolutely.
And so that little boy or little girl that's falling asleep in class all the time, and you're like, I don't know why they're falling asleep in class. I'm a good teacher. They should be paying attention to me. Well, you know what? They didn't sleep the night before. So naturally, I mean, even as an adult, you know how hard it is sometimes to stay awake. So we make sure we try to train our every new teacher orientation that we have in, I go make a presentation. Any chance I get, I make a presentation to our staff for them to learn things so they can watch it. The hygiene issues a lot of time. Kids that don't know their address because honestly, it's the 5th one they've had this year, so why should they learn it? So there's a lot of those types of things, those red flags that kind of pop up that will allow and open the door to conversation for the teachers to have with the students. And then remember I was telling you about the point of contact too. Then they actually have somebody there in the schools too that can help out.
I've heard a lot of people ask questions about why do we use tax money to feed kids? And if they're falling asleep in school, they haven't slept the night before, they didn't eat breakfast before leaving home because there is no breakfast. And like you said, those are signs.
Absolutely.
And by having that early breakfast for kids that come to school early, and it gets them through the entire day.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things our McKinney-Vento program makes sure that we have. So we make sure that every student that's identified gets free breakfast and lunch. We also make sure they have school supplies, backpacks. We have a thing called School of Origin. This is an important thing for our elementary school kids. If a family is living at, let's say, at Mance Elementary School zone, they lose their housing there, they find themselves now in J.G. Johnson zone. The most important thing for that child is stability. So we want to make sure that they stay at their school of origin. So we provide that transportation back to their school of origin. So they can stay in their school, they can stay with their friends, they can stay with their teacher, because that's really important for us to have. We provide outreach services. The local district liaison is what's paid for by the McKinney-Vento program. We do supplemental instructions, data collection, school fees for classes. We have high school students taking shop classes that are about $150. So we pay for those kind of fees too. Any kind of testing we'll pay for. If there's testing for SATs, GEDs, things like that, we'll pay for that. And then if there's any kind of after-school programs, we'll help with that too. But I've got to tell you, this is what's special to me.
What's that?
And that is our community. Our community is amazing when it helps. That's what our grant will pay for, but this is what our community helps us with. We have a homeless activity fund. And so things that the grant doesn't pay for, things like shoes, sports equipment, basic hygiene needs, all of those things that our students need, we pay for field trips and haircuts. And I always put on there much, much more because what we're trying to do is our community donates all of these things, and we're just the conduit to get them out to the families that
we
are
do
in
have
need.
A fantastic community.
I can't tell you. I can't ever say enough about it. I was at a state conference just recently, and I made a presentation about turning data into dollars for our homeless students, and I used our community as an example, as a model for that. So I'm very proud of Pahrump and all that they do for our homeless families.
Well, I want to go back to something else you said, because everything you've talked about I've heard of, but I have not heard about School of Origin. And I like that.
Okay.
So when did that start, and how did we come about? Because that is a key part.
It is. So the School of Origin is part of the law.
Oh.
It's actually part of the McKinney-Vento law.
Okay.
And so once again, it goes back to the training. So if a parent walks in the door and says, I've got to move from Mance Elementary School to J.G. Johnson Elementary School, or even across town to Hafen, our staff, our front office staff, is trained to say, oh, so did you buy a new house? Why are you leaving? And to try to get that information out. And we try to stop that move right there to prevent that from happening. And then we offer this to them. At that point in time, it's like, well, if you lost your housing, or if it's a domestic violence situation, whatever the case may be, we have a conversation about that, and we say, would you like to keep your child in school? We're not going to make them do anything, but would you like to keep your child at their school of origin? And 9 times out of 10, it's a yes.
And it definitely helps the kid, because a kid doesn't have to transition to new friends and all the other things.
I got to tell you, the first year I ever did this, the first family, one of the very first families I ever had gone to all of our elementary schools, and he was in 2nd grade.
Wow.
We had 5 at the time.
Okay.
So that School of Origin's huge.
That is fantastic. Like I said, it was something that I was just not familiar with.
Yeah.
But it really piqued my interest because it is so important.
It is, absolutely.
But everything that you've told us today is so important. And it's important to all of us to know that this lady does so much, not only in Nye County School District, but just for our kids, which is why I wanted her on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been really enjoyable. And I love getting the word out. I'll talk to anybody. So if there's anybody out there that has an organization that would like to hear more about this program, please give me a call. I have PowerPoint presentations. I have videos. You just give me a call and I will come out.
And we'll see you in the next session with a new guest. And thank you, Linda, for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.